Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 5 is here. We're going to break down a tournament lineup, a look at how to build a tournament lineup on FanDuel. We break down cash game lineups every single Monday on DraftKings. Take a first look. This is an exercise at looking at building tournament lineups for the Week 5 slate. And if you are looking for the Week 4 recap, that's on the second channel, right down the street. I'll leave a link right down below in the pinned comment. I will put right up above me here a card that will take you over there. You can open it up in another tab. Go check out that video if you want to see how everything broke down last week with my article and cash game lineups, tournament lineups, everything else. It lives on the second channel. To open up some breathing room here on the first channel, appreciate you guys taking the time to head over there, sub, everything else. We have a 10% rule on this channel, actually on both channels, meaning that I would love to ask for 10% of the views being turned into likes. This video has been around 10,000 views. That means we're looking for over 1,000 likes on this video. Reply to it, click something, it helps. All of the clicks that you are willing to give help. Whether that means you're going to click like, subscribe, ring that notifications bell, or comment down below in the reply section, that helps massively. And if you are not somebody who has ever used an optimizer, we have discounts for you, as you can see right down there in the bottom of the screen, as well as if you click show more in the description, there's links with discounts to a bunch of different optimizers that have partnered with us here on the stream and the channel to help bring you the best tools in the industry at a little bit of a discount and some short-term commitments for you guys to try out some different tools that you may not have learned to use before. Because in my opinion, if you've never tried mass multi-entering, or MME, entering 100 or 150 lineups in a tournament, I think that that's a skill that you need to learn how to learn if you are good at it. The next big MME superstar could be you, and the sites have nickel games, 10-cent games, 50-cent games, quarter games. So if you're a smaller bankroll player, you don't have to go chase $3,000 entry fees for a $20 tournament at 150 entries a piece, or a $10 tournament for $1,500. You can get in where you fit in with a a 5 cent, 10 cent for 700 or 750 or $15 to mini max these tournaments with a lineup optimizer. So learn if you're good at it. It's a good skill to learn, because if you are good at it, it's a great way to try and bank a lot of money. And especially during football season, where first place in those smaller mini max tournaments are $500 to $3,000, it pays to try and learn if it's something you're good at. So let's try and take a look at this slate. We do a top stacks video every single Thursday where I break down 5 stacks that I think are going to be good for the week, and we go over how to plug them into different optimizers. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has been very good, except for, the one game that he played against New England, but he still had 20 fantasy points in that game. I love how much they utilize the shovel pass around the goal line after, when they get inside the 10, inside the 5, where they have one of their really speedy receivers, whether it's Mecole Hardman or Tyreek Hill, run by the line, and Patrick Mahomes takes a shotgun snap and just goes bloop, and it just pops right to the guy who's jet sweeping, and he gets a touchdown pass if they happen to find their way into the end zone. And it's impossible to defend. So instead of just it being a handoff, we get extra touchdown passes that are really high efficiency plays around the goal line and high leverage plays around the goal line, and low risk plays around the goal line, as well as him having the big splash ability that he always brings to the table. This week he squares off against Las Vegas. Have stacks of him. Lamar Jackson at 8,900 would make for the cornerstone of a great tournament lineup, because his price is a little bit restrictive. People are looking to pay a little bit less, and there's 2 guys that if he has a massive game, if he has a 3-4 touchdown game, you're going to get multiple touchdowns out of people that you can pair him with. The hard spot is bringing it back with somebody, as that defense has been really good. You could bring it back with T. Higgins. You could bring it back with Tyler Boyd, in the hopes that they can stay close somewhat to Baltimore, as Baltimore has one of the highest team totals on the week at well over 30. Theirs is sitting at 32 right now. The Chiefs are at 34.5. Hilarious that they're at that point. The Texans at 30, and the Cowboys at 31. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can go about this, right? But I do want to mention that if we look back over the last 3 weeks, obviously week 1, Cowboys stacks did not win you the Millionaire Maker, did not win you massive tournaments, but the Cowboys have been playing from behind the last 2 weeks, have thrown the ball 57 and 58 times. Their defense is awful. And they just allow everybody to score. They played from behind against Atlanta too. So the last 3 weeks, right? So he's been chasing 450, 472 yards, 502 yards with 8 touchdown passes over the last 3 weeks and 3 rushing touchdowns against Atlanta for Dak. The opposing team has gone off in each one of those games as well, with Odell Beckham Jr. for Cleveland, with Seattle, and watching DK Metcalf have 20-something points, and Tyler Lockett scored 3 touchdowns, and against Atlanta they gave up a ton of points as well to the passing game there. So probably could have just stacked the Cowboys and whichever quarterback's playing against them in multitudes of different ways across your lineups and won the Millionaire Maker, because that's where the winning lineup in the Millionaire Maker has been. This week presents us with Daniel Jones on the other side, and he's only 7K, which I think is way too cheap, regardless of what his game log looks like, right? Going into last week, I said that Baker Mayfield was a good tournament play, and I still contend that he was, even though he did not lead us to like a 25 or a 30 point FanDuel point day on that day. But if you looked at his box scores before, they weren't phenomenal either. We did have a touchdown pass from Jarvis Landry. They had a reverse. Odell Beckham Jr. went for like 70 yards. And they ran the ball all over the place, because that's what their attitude is in Cleveland this year. With Stefanski there, they're going to run the ball a lot. The Giants, I don't think with the running backs that they have right now, with Saquon out, obviously Freeman's there. He's not what he used to be. They have a bunch of other guys behind him like Dion Lewis and Gallman and whatever. If they're going to keep pace, and they do project to play from behind in this game, as they're 9.5 or 10 point underdogs right now with where you look, we're going to build stacks with both of these guys. And I'm going to show you kind of how we're going to do it. So let's start with Daniel Jones, right? We'll put him into this stack, and then we'll look at running backs. So we're playing Zeke. We're going to build a 2+2 stack here. So I've got the quarterback from the game. I want 2 Dallas Cowboys, and I want 2 players on the Giants to go with this stack. I'm playing Zeke. I don't care. Not going to play the running backs on the Giants, whether it's Devonta, whether it's Dion, whether it's Gallman. I don't care. I'm probably not going to go to Pollard either, as Zeke is just eating up so much of the usage. Not just the usage in the passing game, right? They've played from behind 3 straight weeks. 8 targets, 11 targets, 7 targets those 3 games. He has not topped 20 touches or 20 carries in the last 2 weeks, but he gets us over 20 touches on the game because he's what we call a game flow independent running back. If they're playing from ahead, you're going to see Ezekiel Elliott get 20 to 25 carries and still get used in the passing game. If they're playing from behind, he may have less carries. He may not get you 100 yards rushing, but his scrimmage yards are still going to be good, and his touchdown expectation with as many inside the 5 carries as he gets is still going to be good. And every one of those catches gets you 0.5 points on DraftKings, or sorry, on FanDuel, with a full point on DraftKings. So he's a perfect player right now. He's egregiously priced on DK. I think he's more fairly priced on FanDuel at 9K. You want to try and get 20 plus points out of him. He hasn't gotten us there since week 1. But again, a game where he's home favored. His team has a really high team total. He has an expectation of 20 plus touches, gets the vast majority of the touches once they get inside the red zone, and definitely inside the 5-yard line, where he basically gets all the carries, with the exception of the one that Pollard ran in after Ezekiel Elliott scored a touchdown, but they refused to review it. Like, the Cowboys just ran another play really fast. That would have been his touchdown and not Pollard's as well, which would have put him over 20 points in week 4. Let's just stick with this game. Let's go to the wide receivers. If I play Daniel Jones in this lineup, I will have enough money to get up to Amari Cooper, who's been something that I never really say about Amari Cooper, but he's been extremely consistent, and most of that is due to the volume that he's seen, with 16 targets, 12 targets, 9 targets, and 14 targets moving backwards through this season. I know that a lot of people don't like to play Amari Cooper when he's on the road, but in his 2 road games, he's gotten 26 targets. So we can kind of throw that out. Usually, home road splits with a wide receiver are tied to the quarterback's home road splits, because if a quarterback doesn't do particularly well. And sometimes that's tied to the play calling that the offensive coordinator or head coach goes with. A lot of coordinators are a little bit more run heavy when they go on the road. They want to slow the game down. They want the opponents to be off the field a little bit more, protect their defense so that they can take the crowd out of the game. Obviously, less of a factor in 2020 to take the crowd out of the game, but that's the mentality that you see a lot of a lot of head coaches go with when they try to take a talented team on the road. Cowboys don't care this year. They just want to go really, really fast. It's like the Ricky Bobby offense, right? I just want to go fast. And I love it because we get a fantasy carnival basically every week. They can't keep opposing teams from scoring a lot of points, and they can't keep opposing teams out of the end zone, and then opposing teams can't keep this amazing offense out of the end zone, so it's the best team for fantasy. We can also plug one of the wide receivers. I understand if you want to come down here to Golden Tate. I get it, because he should see consistent volume. I, though, want to take advantage of the big playability of Darius Slayton in this lineup, who's a little bit more of a downfield threat, a bigger target once they get around the goal line, and we can afford him, as well as putting in Evan Ingram into this lineup, who has seen a lot of targets, albeit closer to the line of scrimmage. If they can get the ball in the hands of Evan Ingram, he has more chance at a big play this weekend in a tournament than he would any other week because of the matchup. So here's our double-double, right? Now I want In-N-Out for lunch. We were just talking about burgers on stream too. So Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton and Evan Ingram. Ezekiel, because they're going to be playing up in pace, and I think that Jones can have a good enough game. Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper, the two highest volume guys in the ground and passing game for Dallas, to go along with Jones, who's at a really ridiculously low price as compared to Dak Prescott, who's $1,700 more expensive. I'm going to plug in a random defense. It's not going to be anyone from this game. We typically pay down somewhere around this range, whatever. I'm just going to plug in a random defense because it's too early in the week. Really focus on what defense we want. Really high variance. We don't have all the answers yet about injuries and offensive line injuries and defensive line injuries. So I like to make those decisions later in the week for those of you who wonder why on first look I'm not really concerned as much with the defense that we plug in. So now we want to try and figure out a secondary stack, which means that I kind of want to look at wide receivers and running backs that are on this slate. We also have a flex play that we can go with. Derrick Henry, he's going to get the ball a ton. Buffalo, I counted it up this morning, and I don't think all the stats were in, but through 4 weeks, I think they're like the 21st matchup in defense versus position. People have said, well, the Bills they're not that great. We can attack them this year. I disagree. They're still a tough team against running backs, partially because they've been playing from ahead, partially because the defense is pretty stout. But Derrick Henry's a good play basically any week, and they're going to pound the ball to him a ton. Josh Jacobs has seen the ball a ton, but I want to focus on Josh Jacobs when he's playing at home. I am really encouraged by the consistent usage with Josh Jacobs in the passing game this year, which is something we did not see in 2019 when he was a rookie. Now, games where they're going to keep it close, you're also going to see Josh Jacobs run the ball 25 plus times. And now when you factor in the fact that he's gotten no less than 3 targets in any one of the 4 games, that's perfect. The problem is when game script goes against him, he doesn't get those 25 carries, and he needs them because efficiency wise, he's not great because his offense is not all that great. I'd much rather focus on the passing game, which brings me to CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who has faced New England's defense, Baltimore's defense, the Chargers defense. Granted, Houston, not a good defense, and he tore them up with 25 carries and 138 yards and a touchdown. I love the fact that they're getting him involved more in the air. That's what we thought the best part of his skill set was. So that gives us a little bit of a higher floor with him every single week. We know that the Chiefs are going to be playing from ahead most times, which means that in the second half of games, he should be the guy to try and salt things away. So if we can get a first half touchdown out of him, it could lead us to a multiple touchdown game plus 100 yards. We want to focus on home favored running backs that have an expectation of 20 touches and are getting work inside the 5-yard line. He is dominating all 4 of those things. They have a really high total. They have a fantastic matchup at home against Las Vegas, and he's 7,900, and I think that we can plug him into this lineup. The secondary stack that I want to go with here, I don't typically use 2 tight end lineups. I don't think that you definitely have to do that in this situation, but Darren Waller is getting an absurd amount of targets, especially with the injuries that they've seen in their passing game. And granted, against New England, he only saw 4, but that's New England, and they do things to take away your favorite toy on offense. And while it's easier to take away a pass catcher than a running back, especially one that's probably going to get schemed out of the game because you're going to be playing from ahead if you're the Patriots. Against Buffalo, 12 targets. Against New Orleans, 16 targets. Against Carolina, 8 targets. And now against Kansas City, who they should be playing up in pace, should the Raiders. They still have, maybe Ruggs gets back, maybe Edwards gets back, but you're going to see meaningful snaps from Nelson Aguilar and Zay Jones on the outside, and Darren Waller priced at 6,800 comes in less than some of the wide receivers here who are not getting anywhere near to the amount of targets that he gets on a week in, week out basis, and has the touchdown expectation that he would have in this situation. Will Fuller at 6,600. I know how you guys hate playing him, but I don't. Robert Woods, 6,700. Odell Beckham Jr. had a blow-up game last week, might come in at a higher percentage than he should this week, because this is a run-first offense, and they're just not going to throw the ball a ton. 8 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets. The volume isn't there, but the big playability is. I'm going to go with the secondary stack here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or Helaire, going with Darren Waller, which will further differentiate this lineup, as I typically don't like to go with 2 tight ends. I like to use a running back or a wide receiver in the flex. We've already seen a Millionaire Maker 1 this year with a double tight end lineup, and Waller plus Ingram gives us targets for a floor, gives us yardage upside, and gives us massive touchdown upside with both of these games and both of these players chasing with a high point total expected from them and elevated targets based on the situation the game is in. That leaves us with 6,600 for a wide receiver. This is a tournament lineup, y'all. Will Fuller's good. Yeah, I know about week 2 against Baltimore. I know. Will Fuller's good. Yes, Will Fuller can get injured, but this is the NFL and everybody's one play away from getting injured. But Will Fuller gets injured more, but he didn't get injured 3 of the 4 weeks this season, and he posted really good numbers for us. So if you're avoiding Will Fuller because you're scared of playing a guy who might get injured in a game, you probably just shouldn't play DFS at all, because his floor is much better this year. He's reached 100 yards twice this year. He's gotten a touchdown in 2 separate games this year. The upside is absolutely massive. The matchup is really good. They have one of the 4 highest team totals on the week. They fired Bill O'Brien, and Jacksonville can't really stop anybody through the air or on the ground, and they don't really have a powerful ground game, with David Johnson not being given the ball a ton the first 3 weeks with the coach who should be calling the plays. I think he got like 13 carries a week the first 3 weeks of the season. So this is probably still going to be the Will Fuller show through the air. And I'm going to show you how we can switch this lineup up, because you're like, well, I don't really like playing Daniel Jones out. And you have Daniel Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Edwards-Helaire, Amari Cooper, Darius Slayton, Will Fuller, Evan Ingram, and Darren Waller. Well, let's take Waller out of that lineup, because Al, I don't want to play 2 tight ends. Fine. Al, I don't want to play Daniel Jones. Fine. So let's take Amari Cooper out of this lineup. Let's go here. You'd much rather play Dak, huh? So let's go with Dak. Let's find a wide receiver that we can pair him with, because I want that double stack. Oh, look, CeeDee Lamb's 5,900. I have 7,000 remaining for a flex. You want a running back and a flex at 7,000? Okay, let's see if I can make that happen for you. Kareem Hunt with absolutely no Nick Chubb. James Conner, $5 running back against Philadelphia. Mike Davis, who's basically CMC light, or Joe Mixon coming off a career game. Okay, fine. Easy game. Okay, fine. Easy game. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CeeDee Lamb, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, Will Fuller and his big playability, James Conner, defense, don't care. There's a bunch of different tournament ways you can go this week. Make sure that you're correlating your lineups. Do the best that you can, and I'll catch you up next week. There's another video right here.
He's a legend.